Take a deep breath. Let it fall gently through your chest, like a pebble sinking slowly into still water. The air feels cool, the room is quiet, and somewhere in the distance you can almost hear waves. Let yourself drift. The weight of the day slips away. Your thoughts soften, becoming small bubbles rising toward the surface of your mind. For now there's nowhere to go, no world to save, no light to chase. Only this, the sound of your own breath and the hum of something older, deeper, calling from beneath. Because tonight our story begins not among the stars, but in the forgotten oceans of our own world. Part 1. The Mirror. We ignored it. Is strange, isn't it? That we have sent machines to the surface of Mars, but barely touched the floor of our own sea. We have photographs of distant deserts glowing red under alien suns. Yet there are valleys beneath our oceans deeper than Everest is tall, unseen, unmapped, untouched. More than 80% of the ocean remains unexplored. 80%, a number so staggering that it humbles even the grandest dreams of exploration. We have mapped other planets with lasers and satellites, but not the world beneath our feet. And maybe, just maybe, that neglect says more about us than about the sea. We wanted to escape upward, but the truth always waited downward. In the beginning, when humanity looked at the horizon, it saw a mirror, sky and sea reflecting each other endlessly. One above, one below, both infinite, both mysterious. But while the stars whispered promise, the ocean whispered truth. And truth can be terrifying. The sea does not lie. It does not exaggerate or flatter. It simply is. It's vast, heavy, silent. It holds within it every memory of this planet, every death, every birth, every secret. So we looked up instead. We built rockets, telescopes, machines that could survive the void. But we forgot to build something far simpler, the courage to look down. Part 2. The forgotten voyage centuries ago. Before radar and satellites, the sea was everything. It was our path, our mystery, our fear. Entire empires rose and fell based on the whim of its waves. Sailors told stories of monsters that swallowed ships whole, of lights beneath the surface, of phantom islands that appeared and disappeared between storms. We called them myths. But those stories, in truth, were the first data, fragments of human curiosity recorded in the language of imagination. Back then, to explore the ocean was to stare directly into the unknown. There were no cameras, no protective suits, no sonar maps, only faith and wooden ships that cracked under pressure. They believed the ocean had no bottom, and in a way they were right, because the ocean isn't just a place. It's a time machine. Every layer of it, from surface to abyss, is a chapter of the Earth's memory, written in salt and silence. To go down is to go backward. The first humans to truly descend beneath the surface were not sailors, but dreamers wrapped in steel. In 1930, a man named William Beebe lowered himself into the deep Atlantic inside a steel sphere called the bathysphere. It was barely big enough for two people. There were no escape hatches, no thrusters, no cameras, only thick glass and hope. At half a mile below, the sunlight vanished. At 1 mile, the water outside pressed with a force of thousands of pounds per square inch, enough to crush a car like paper. And yet there in the blackness, Beebe saw something extraordinary. Creatures glowing like living stars, eyes that reflected light that didn't exist, shapes that dissolved when looked at directly. He described it as a sky below the sea. It was the first human glimpse into a world that had existed, unchanged for billions of years. An ecosystem older than trees, more alien than Mars, and yet after his mission ended, humanity did not rush downward. We looked up again, because up there in the stars, the unknown was distant and romantic. Down here it was too close. Part 3. The ocean and the stars. By the 1960s, as humanity reached for the moon, we also briefly looked back to our oceans. Projects like Sealab and Tektite began, underwater laboratories where scientists lived beneath the waves for weeks, studying marine life, geology, and pressure adaptation. But something strange happened. Every few years, funding vanished. The programs were shut down quietly. The data scattered, buried in archives. At the same time, space agencies grew exponentially. Budgets soared, dreams expanded. Humans walked on the moon while deep-sea programs sank into obscurity. It wasn't just politics. It was psychology. Space made us feel powerful. The ocean made us feel small. Up there we were pioneers. Down here we were guests, and humanity has never been good at being a guest. Part 4. The weight of silence. Imagine for a moment descending below the last flicker of sunlight. The water grows colder. The sound fades. Not because it's quiet, but because everything is absorbed. Your body vibrates with pressure. Every exhale sounds like thunder in your helmet. Down there, 1,000 meters deep, you enter what scientists call the twilight zone, a place where light fades into myth. Fish glow with living electricity. Jellyfish pulse like ghostly lanterns. Entire forests of coral sway in slow, silent rhythms, as if dancing to music too ancient for us to hear. This world doesn't care for us. It doesn't need us. And perhaps that's why we avoid it. We call the stars the frontier. But the ocean is not a frontier. It's a mirror. It shows us what we've forgotten, that we are temporary. That our technology, our walls, our machines, they all dissolve eventually. Down there, everything becomes one again. Salt, water, silence. When the Apollo missions launched, millions watched the skies. When the Trieste, the first submersible to reach the deepest trench on Earth, descended into the Mariana Trench in 1960, only a handful of people cared. Both events were milestones of human achievement, but one received parades, the other a footnote. Perhaps it's because we already know the ocean. We come from it after all. Its rhythm beats in our blood. Its salt runs through our veins. Maybe we don't explore it not because we're uninterested, but because some part of us already remembers it too well. Part 5. The choice of direction. Every civilization reaches a moment when it must choose to go farther or to go deeper. Farther is easy. Farther means distance, between you and your mistakes, your history, your truths. Deeper means confrontation. Deeper means remembering. When we chose Mars, we didn't just choose exploration, and we chose escape. Escape from responsibility. From the ancient breathing cradle that birthed us, we told ourselves that space was the future, but the ocean was our past, and it still waits unvisited, unhealed. Maybe that's why it's unexplored, because what lives in those depths may not be creatures or ruins or secrets, but memories of everything we tried to leave behind. Part 6. The blue unknown. Look out at the horizon, the line where sky meets sea. It looks flat, calm, endless, but that calmness is an illusion. Beneath that still surface lies a world of mountain ranges, canyons, volcanoes, rivers of fire. An entire planet beneath our planet, and yet we treat it as background, a setting for stories, not the story itself. 80% unexplored. Not because we can't reach it, but because we haven't tried. Every year we send billions into the void of space. Every year we leave the cradle of our birth unvisited. And maybe, just maybe, the ocean doesn't mind. Because it doesn't need us. It remembers us anyway. Every drop of water that touches your skin, every wave that breaks upon the shore, it has been here since the beginning. The same water that cooled molten rock, that carried the first cells, that rained upon the first forests. The ocean is time itself, flowing in cycles of patience. It waits, and so as you breathe softly now, let yourself imagine it. Not the sea we swim in, but the one we've never seen. The one that watches silently from beneath the blue. Beneath that horizon, beneath the quiet ripples, there is a truth deeper than pressure, darker than light, older than any star we've chased, and it calls still. Not to our rockets, but to our bones. Not to our ambition, but to our memory. We are not the explorers of the ocean. We are its reflection, fleeting, curious, and afraid. But maybe one day, when the stars no longer answer, we will remember where to look again. Downward, homeward, into the unexplored 80%. They say the sea is alive. Not metaphorically, not symbolically. Literally alive, breathing, pulsing, thinking in ways we don't yet understand. Every current a vein, every trench a memory. Every flicker of light a heartbeat in a body larger than continents. We thought we were explorers. But maybe we ourselves wandering through a being far older than ourselves. Part 57, the gardens of the dark at 3,000 meters below. There is no sunlight, but there is color. Pale blue creatures drift like living silk. Jellyfish with transparent bells pulse softly, their bodies glowing from within, not from heat but from chemical fire. They call it bioluminescence. To us, it's a spectacle. To them, it's language. Flashes of blue mean warning. Soft green trails mean invitation. Amber spirals, perhaps curiosity, or love. It's light that speaks without sound. A conversation of glows and flickers that has continued for millions of years without a single human witness. And in that darkness, the most ancient symphony of life still plays. Part 58, the coral cities of silence. Deep beneath the equatorial currents, there are coral towers taller than cathedrals, formed not by architects but by time and patience. Each coral polyp, a creature smaller than a grain of sand, lives, dies, and leaves behind a skeleton. Layer by layer, generation after generation, they build vast living metropolises. And when one dies, another grows upon its remains. A perfect cycle. Death creating life, creating death again. If you swim through it carefully, you can feel the pulse. A slow vibration through your fingertips, like the ocean's version of a heartbeat. Scientists have recorded it. It's real. The coral hums. Part 29. The stars beneath. There's a place near the Mariana Trench where the seafloor glows, not with light, but with life. Billions of microscopic organisms drift, their bodies shimmering faintly like dust caught in a sunbeam. When submersibles pass through, they leave trails like comets. It's been called the Sea of Stars, and yet only a handful of humans have ever seen it. Even fewer have described it clearly. Because language breaks down when faced with beauty that feels both alien and familiar. It's as if the stars we look up to have their reflections below, a cosmic mirror, reminding us that the same spark exists in both directions. Above us, the infinite. Below us, the origin. Part XXX, the immortals, among the strangest creatures of the deep, is one we've come to call Turritopsis doorni, the immortal jellyfish. When injured, it doesn't die. It reverts, transforming its adult cells back into their youthful state, beginning life again, over and over indefinitely. If left untouched by predators, it could live forever, but perhaps that's not even the most extraordinary part. Some scientists believe these jellyfish may share cellular similarities with deep-sea bacteria found near thermal vents, bacteria that predate multicellular life itself, meaning immortality in the ocean might not be evolution. It might be memory, life remembering how to begin again. Part X20, the vents of creation. Along the ridges of the deep ocean, cracks in the seafloor release jets of superheated water. Temperatures above 400 exist, filled with metal and sulfur. They're called hydrothermal vents, and somehow, against all logic, they're teeming with life. Worms with blood-red frills, crabs with white shells that glow faintly blue, bacteria that consume minerals instead of sunlight. Everywhere else on Earth, life depends on the sun, but here it thrives on the planet's fire. Some scientists believe this is where life began, not in sunlight but in darkness. Not in the sky, but in the depths. If that's true, then we are all descendants of the abyss, children of the vents, born from heat and silence. Part 83, the memory of light in 2021. A team of researchers captured footage of something extraordinary. A vast, ghostly shape drifting through black water, over 30 meters long, translucent, coiling, endless. They named it the siphonophore. It's not a single creature, but a colony. Thousands of individual beings fused together, acting as one, a living tapestry. It moves with the slow grace of thought. It can rearrange itself, adapt its structure, and share nutrients instantly across its entire form. When scientists analyzed it, they found its cellular communication pattern mirrored the neural activity of the human brain, meaning the siphonophore thinks, not with neurons, but with connection. It's as if evolution decided to try another way of being intelligent. Part 23, the machines of nature. The deeper we go, the stranger it gets. We found shrimp that produce heat-resistant metals in their shells, fish that generate electricity, powerful enough to stun prey from meters away, crustaceans with lenses made of crystalline calcium, perfect natural cameras that see in total darkness. Every discovery defies logic, and yet it works flawlessly. When engineers study these creatures, they find technologies that could revolutionize energy, medicine, and AI. Yet for every discovery, there's something withheld. Data goes missing. Footage is sealed. Some research is classified. Why? Because if nature already solved the problems we're spending billions to crack, then power shifts. Control dissolves. And the ocean has never been good at obeying control. Parting Spisaev, the whispers in the blue divers who've spent months below report something that doesn't appear on sonar or camera. A sound, a low rhythmic pulse. Almost like a heartbeat, almost like words, it comes irregularly, faint, nearly subliminal. Always just beyond understanding. It's been recorded but never explained. Some say it's geological, some say biological, and a few quietly won't say it feels intentional. Like the ocean is speaking in a frequency we can't yet comprehend. Part XX Amphi, the visitors. Then there are the reports, strange, fleeting, easily dismissed. Light seen from deep-sea probes moving faster than any creature known to exist. Shapes that appear in one frame and vanish the next. Metallic glimmers that seem to observe before fading into the black. At first they were labeled technical artifacts, camera glitches. Sensor noise, but one recording stood apart. Fair probe off the coast of Guam captured a structure. Symmetrical, metallic, buried halfway in sediment. Too regular to be rock, too silent to be alive. When the footage was reviewed, it was quietly removed from public archives. Officially, it was corrupted. Unofficially, it sparked a rumor that still circulates in deep research circles, that humanity didn't stop exploring the ocean because it was empty. We stopped because it was already occupied. Part Karter asked, the line between worlds, it's easy to dismiss such claims. We're rational beings. We demand evidence. But what if evidence doesn't want to be found? What if the deeper world is not hostile but protective, shielding itself from our curiosity, the way a body hides its heart? Perhaps what lives below is simply too different. Not alien, not divine, but something in between. Older than language. Older than fear. Older even than life as we define it. A consciousness made of currents. A memory shaped like water. Her silence that listens back. Part Getiopivesens, the ocean. Within every time we dream, our brains produce waves, slow oscillations that scientists can record. They call them delta rhythms. They look almost identical to ocean tides, rising and falling in perfect cycles. The same pattern, the same flow, as if the ocean never truly left us and it simply moved inside. So when you stare into the deep and it stares back, maybe that connection isn't metaphorical. Maybe it's biological. Maybe the sea isn't something out there. Maybe it's the part of us that never stopped breathing beneath the waves. They say the deeper you go, the quieter it gets. But that's not true. The deeper you go, the louder the silence becomes, until it's no longer absence, but presence. A pressure you can feel in your bones, your breath, your thoughts. It isn't just the ocean pressing down. It's everything you've ever ignored. Part 15. The human limit pressure is not just physics. It's a threshold of understanding. At 1,000 meters, light begins to fade. At 4,000 meters, color disappears. At 6,000 meters, the weight is so immense that even titanium begins to sigh. No human body could survive it. Even machines tremble. But it isn't the crushing that frightens us. It's the realization that there is no bottom we can fully reach. Every time we map deeper, something deeper still waits below. It's an infinite descent, and humans were never built for infinity. We like boundaries, edges, certainty. The ocean gives us none. Part 17th. The cognitive abyss scientists call it thalassophobia, the fear of deep water, a primal evolutionary response to the unknown. But maybe it's older than evolution. Maybe it's ancestral memory. For millions of years, before lungs, before language, before fire, our ancestors lived here, in the sea. And perhaps when we climbed ashore, we carried the memory of pressure, darkness, and surrender in our DNA. So when we look into the abyss, it's not just curiosity, it's recognition, a buried sense of returning. Part Scene T8. The mirror of myth. Every civilization has a story about what lives beneath. To the Greeks, it was Poseidon, the temperamental god whose mood shaped storms. To the Norse, Jörmungandr, the serpent so vast it encircled the earth. To the Polynesians, the sea was a living spirit, both mother and monster. To the Japanese, Ryujin, the dragon who ruled the deep with coral palaces and immortal pearls. Different names, same truth. The ocean is both creator and destroyer, the place of beginnings and endings. We have always sensed that duality. That's why we personified it, to make it smaller, safer, human. But the ocean is not human. It doesn't negotiate. It endures. Part 99. The descent of mind. Imagine you are in a submersible descending alone. Outside your small sphere, nothing but black. No reference points. No sound but the faint hum of machinery and your heartbeat. At first it's mesmerizing, almost peaceful. Then the mind begins to rebel. Your thoughts stretch out like tentacles, trying to touch something, anything beyond the glass. Your sense of time dissolves. Your breath feels too loud, and suddenly you realize the fear isn't that something is out there. The fear is that nothing is. That's when explorers report seeing things, glowing shapes, movements in the dark, forms that may or may not exist. The brain, desperate for structure, invents life where there is none. But sometimes the cameras confirm what they saw, and that's when fear becomes fascination. Part XY, the myths that knew too much. In old sailor legends, there were creatures said to dwell so deep that they were never meant to surface. They called them Leviathan, Taniwa, Aspidochelone, massive beings that swallowed ships whole, their scales mistaken for islands. At first we laughed at these stories. Then we found the colossal squid, real, enormous, and exactly where the myth said it would be. Eyes the size of dinner plates, tentacles lined with hooks. It wasn't imagination, it was memory, passed down through stories before microscopes or sonar could prove it true. How much else have we dismissed simply because we've forgotten how to remember? Part 41, the breath of the abyss. The ocean's darkness is not empty, it breathes. In the deep trenches, entire ecosystems thrive without sunlight. They feed on the chemical warmth of the earth itself. They convert death into life. Biologists call them chemosynthetic communities, life forms that challenge everything we thought we knew about biology. Down there, at depths where human lungs would collapse instantly, life flourishes, silent, glowing, ancient. Microbes that have existed unchanged for millions of years. Creatures that regenerate, that live beyond our concept of time. When you see them glowing faintly like blue embers, you realize something humbling. Life does not need us, but we need life, every hidden form of it. Because without those tiny, unseen organisms, oxygen would vanish. The atmosphere would die. The planet would stop breathing. The abyss keeps us alive while we pretend it isn't there. Part 42, the unspoken reason in interviews. Many deep-sea researchers hesitate when asked why funding always dries up. They mention cost, risk, logistics. But between their words, there's something quieter, a discomfort. One marine biologist once said, off record, every time we go deeper, we find something we can't explain. And not all of it feels biological. That quote never made it to print. We assume that's superstition. But then again, superstition often starts where data stops. There are sonar readings that show impossible movement, thermal anomalies that shift as if responding to observation. Entire trenches where sound behaves differently, as though the water itself is listening. We dismiss it because it doesn't fit our model of reality. But models were made on land, and the ocean doesn't care about land. Part 43, the infinite. Within, when astronauts describe space, they use words like weightless, endless, free. But deep-sea divers use words like dense, enclosed, eternal. One looks outward, the other looks inward. Maybe that's why we chose the stars, because they let us escape ourselves. The ocean, on the other hand, forces us to face the mirror. It's the same darkness, but inverted. Space expands forever. The sea compresses forever. Both lead to the same truth. We are surrounded by infinity, above and below, and neither one owes us understanding. Part 42, the forgotten light. There's a strange phenomenon that happens at extreme depths. When certain pressures and temperatures align, water forms supercritical fluid, neither liquid nor gas. It moves like smoke, burns like flame, yet remains underwater. At these vents, scientists have observed light. Not reflection, not bioluminescence. Actual flashes, as if the ocean itself breathes lightning. They call them hydrothermal flickers. To stand there, or even in a submersible, is to witness Earth's heartbeat. The oldest energy still burning, it's hypnotic and terrifying, because it's proof that life and fire coexist where they shouldn't. That creation doesn't follow rules, that maybe the spark that began everything started underwater. Part Exif, the fear that protects. There's an unspoken truth among explorers. The ocean doesn't just hide things, it guards them, not out of malice, but out of necessity. Pressure is a gate. Darkness is a lock. Only those who truly understand respect may pass. Every civilization that disrespected the sea, every empire that took too much, was eventually reclaimed by it. Atlantis, the Minoans. The Mayas drowned cities. The ocean erases arrogance, not as punishment, as balance. So perhaps we stopped exploring not because we couldn't go deeper, but because something in us remembered that we shouldn't. Part X6, the listening deep. They say that sound travels farther in water than in air. That means every word ever spoken at sea still drifts somewhere, echoed endlessly in the dark. Some oceanographers believe that the abyss records everything, that if we had the tools, we could play back the history of the planet written in vibration. Imagine that. Every scream, every song, every promise made beside a shore, all of it, alive in the pressure below. Perhaps that's why silence feels so heavy there, because it's not silence at all. It's memory compressed into eternity, and when the submersible lights go out, you can almost hear it breathing back. The sea remembers everything. It remembers the first storms, the first bones, the first silence. It remembers the men who tried to descend, and those who never came back. It has seen us send fire into the sky. It has watched us turn our eyes away. Part 7, the descent machines. When the Cold War painted the world in fear and pride, both America and the Soviet Union looked not only upward, but also downward. There were whispers of another race, a race beneath the waves. In secret labs, engineers built metal spheres that could survive the weight of 10,000 suns pressing upon their hulls. They called them bathyscaphs, part submarine, part dream. In 1960, two men, Jacques Picard and Don Walsh, sealed themselves inside the Trieste. A small white capsule shaped like a teardrop. No windows large enough to see through clearly. No technology advanced enough to guarantee survival. Their destination, Challenger Deep, the lowest known point on Earth. Nearly 11 kilometers beneath the surface. The descent took almost 5 hours. Each meter felt like a year. Bolts creaked. The walls moaned. A viewing port cracked under pressure. At the bottom, there was no movement, no sound. Just fine white sediment swirling like dust in space. They saw a flatfish, or what looked like one. Life, where it shouldn't be. Then, as quietly as they came, they rose back toward the light. It was a victory of courage. But it didn't change the world. For a brief moment, humanity held its breath and then turned away. The Trieste was retired. Funding was cut. The oceans fell silent again. A few years later, Neil Armstrong stepped onto the moon. Flags were planted. Headlines exploded. The deep sea, meanwhile, returned to darkness. We celebrated the sky. We forgot the abyss, part 8. The lost experiments. In the 1970s and 80s, a few tried to revive the dream. Oceanographers, biologists, dreamers, they built laboratories under the sea. Names like Tektite, Conshelf, and Sealab. In these capsules, humans lived for weeks beneath the waves, studying coral growth, sound travel, and human adaptation to pressure. They discovered something strange. The deeper a person stayed, the quieter their mind became. Heart rate slowed. Dreams became vivid. The line between waking and sleeping blurred. One diver described it as living inside a heartbeat. Another said, "The ocean doesn't speak in words, it speaks in patience." But patience did not pay the bills. Space promised discovery, politics, and power. The ocean promised humility, and humility has no lobby. So one by one, the underwater programs shut down. Their equipment rusted, their data was lost, their footage locked away. The ocean outlasted the humans, as it always does. Part 9. The quiet abandonment. By the 1990s, we were living in a paradox. We could send satellites beyond Pluto, but we couldn't name the creatures living below 3,000 meters in our own seas. Scientists began warning that we were ignoring a universe right here at home. They said the ocean floor might hold cures for diseases, answers to climate change, even new forms of life. But those warnings faded beneath the noise of rockets and headlines. Exploration became entertainment, not endurance. We wanted images of heroes stepping onto new worlds. We didn't want scientists sweating in cramped capsules at the bottom of the sea. And so, exploration of the deep became a kind of ghost story. A rumor whispered by a few, unfunded by none. Part X, the echo of the deep, but the sea does not forget. And every so often it reminds us. In 1997, Norway's hydrophones picked up a strange, powerful sound in the South Pacific. A deep, resonant moan, unlike any whale or geological event ever recorded. They called it the bloop. The noise was so vast, it could be heard across 3,000 miles of ocean. At first, scientists believed it might be an unknown creature, something larger than a blue whale. Later, they theorized it was ice fracturing, but no one could prove it, because no one went to see. That's when it became clear we weren't just uninterested. We were afraid. Afraid of what we might find or what we might not. Afraid of realizing how little we actually know about the place that sustains every breath we take. The ocean doesn't need light to exist. It doesn't need our approval, our funding, or our faith. Fate simply is, like patient, ancient, inevitable. And maybe that's the real reason we never returned. Because the ocean doesn't promise new worlds. It promises truth, and truth is heavier than pressure. Part 18. The modern silence today. Satellites can scan the surface of Mars with precision down to a few meters. But when we try to map our ocean floors, the margin of error can be miles. Miles. There are mountain ranges larger than the Himalayas hidden beneath our seas, completely unseen by human eyes. There are rivers of methane, lakes of brine, volcanoes that burn beneath water. There are trenches where the sunlight has never touched, not once in the entire history of Earth. And yet when we fund exploration, the ocean gets crumbs because it's not glamorous. It doesn't have applause. It doesn't end in a flag, but it is alive. Every second, unseen currents move nutrients, oxygen, and heat across the planet, balancing the atmosphere, feeding every living thing. It is the planet's true heart pulsing in silence, and we, its children, don't listen. Part 14. The hidden agenda. There's another theory, one whispered among oceanographers and environmental historians. It suggests that our neglect of the deep isn't just ignorance, it's intentional. Because to truly explore the ocean would mean uncovering what lies buried there. And some things humanity prefers to forget. There are wrecks of lost civilizations beneath the waves, entire cities swallowed by tectonic shifts, ancient coastlines drowned by rising seas, remnants of cultures erased by time, or by us if we mapped it all. If we saw it all, we might learn truths that change history itself, and not everyone is ready for that. So the ocean remains 80% unmapped, 100% alive, a vault of everything humanity has tried to hide, wrapped in pressure and patience. Part 3. Between stars and salt, as we build telescopes that see billions of light years away, we forget that we are surrounded by a mystery that begins less than a mile below. We dream of alien oceans under Europa and Enceladus, icy moons that may harbor life. But we overlook the alien world that already lives within our own. We are searching for what we already have, The deep sea is our proof of concept for alien life. Creatures that thrive in poison, organisms that glow without sunlight, bacteria that eat metal and breathe sulfur. We call them extremophiles, but maybe they are the norm, and we are the anomaly. Perhaps the universe is filled not with bright, breathable skies, but with endless dark oceans. And Earth, this fragile blue dot, is just another deep trench in a larger sea. Part 14th. The abyss stares back. There's a line from Nietzsche. If you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. Most people think it's a warning, but the ocean interprets it differently. It doesn't gaze back with malice. It gazes back with memory. Every sound we've made, every storm we've caused, every poison we've spilled, the ocean has absorbed it. Not as revenge, but as record. It is our living archive. And one day, when we return to its depths, it will show us exactly who we were, not as explorers, but as consequences. Part 15. The turning tide, but all stories have cycles, and perhaps we are nearing the next descent. New submersibles, small and silent, are being built again, not by governments, but by individuals. Dreamers with titanium hulls and open minds. In 2023, private expeditions began diving regularly beyond 10,000 meters. Instruments are returning data on ancient microbes, new minerals, and creatures that rewrite biology. The ocean is waking up in our imagination again, not as a fear, but as a mirror. Because as our planet warms, our atmosphere changes, and our survival becomes uncertain, the ocean becomes impossible to ignore. It is no longer background. It is the stage. They say we dream of the stars because we're afraid of the sea, afraid of what it remembers, afraid of what it knows about us. Space is silent, empty, predictable. The ocean, unpredictable, alive, watching. We look upward for comfort. Downward we find truth. Part 8. The Mars illusion. In the last century, we've sent dozens of probes to Mars. We've mapped its surface, its dust storms, even its ancient riverbeds. We know its temperature at sunrise. We've heard its thin wind. We've seen its sunrise in crisp resolution. And yet, beneath our own feet, there are canyons deeper than the Grand Canyon that we've never seen. Mountains taller than Everest that rise beneath black waves. Lakes of brine larger than entire countries. How did we end up knowing another world better than our own? Because Mars doesn't change. It doesn't challenge us. It's safe to observe because it's silent. The ocean, on the other hand, feels. It breathes. It fights back. Mars is a photograph. The ocean is a mirror. Part 16 minds. The fear below. Every diver knows it. That moment when light fades and your mind begins to invent things. Shapes in the dark. Movements at the edge of sight. A voice that isn't there. We call it the mid-depth madness. It's the brain's reaction to too much emptiness, or maybe too much presence. Some researchers believe the human mind evolved to avoid deep water. That our fear of drowning is not just biological, it's ancestral. Because somewhere deep in our genetic memory, we remember what the ocean once was. A place not of death, but of judgment. Part XL, the lost civilization. Hypothesis. There's a theory, whispered more often than published, that what lies beneath the ice shelves and trenches isn't just nature. That human civilization might not be the first. Some point to underwater structures near Yonaguni, Japan. Massive stair-like formations carved into rock. Symmetrical. Deliberate, architectural. Others to the Bimini Road in the Bahamas, and giant, flat stones aligned too perfectly to be random. The official stance, natural formations. The unofficial whispers, something older. If humanity rose once before, perhaps the ocean was not our cradle, but our judge. And if we fall again, it will be our tomb. Part XLI. The cosmic reflection. Astronomers say Earth is a blue planet, a rare gem in the black. When seen from orbit, the oceans shimmer like glass, a pulse of life in an infinite void. But look closer. That same blue hides everything we can't explain. If alien life exists, they might not look for radio signals or skyscrapers. They might look for oceans, because oceans are the ultimate test. They create, they destroy, they conceal. Any world with an ocean is a world that dreams, which means Earth, too, might be dreaming through its waters, through its storms, through us. Part Kex Thway. the deep missions in 2029, a quiet international project was proposed, Abyssal Genesis, a full mapping of the remaining 80% of the seafloor, using AI-driven drones capable of operating under extreme pressure for years. The plan was approved, budgets allocated, then silence, no updates, no official cancellation, just disappearance. Some insiders claim the first prototypes detected unknown magnetic fields beneath the mid-Atlantic ridge. Patterns, rhythmic, intelligent, like the hum of a machine. After that, funding was redirected to orbital programs, exploring upward again. As if we'd touched something below that looked back. Part X3, the mirror principle. What if Earth's ocean isn't just water, but a form of consciousness? Not in a mystical sense, but in a literal physical one. Every drop of the ocean interacts through vibration and memory. Quantum physicists have shown that water retains molecular impressions, patterns that echo through structure and sound. If that's true, then the ocean is recording. Every word spoken near it, every storm it's witnessed, every creature it's birthed, a planet-sized memory. And if we listen carefully enough, maybe we'd realize it's not a reflection of us. We're a reflection of it. Part XLAV, the abyssal beasts deep-sea trawlers occasionally haul up things that shouldn't exist. Creatures without eyes, with translucent skin and teeth like needles. Specimens that dissolve before they can be studied. Some fishermen swear they've seen shapes longer than their ships. Too silent, too smooth. They never return for a second look. In 2016, a Russian submersible reportedly filmed something moving near an underwater ridge, 200 meters long, jointed, metallic. The feed cut, the crew reported static and pressure spikes. Officially, equipment malfunction. Unofficially, a creature that wasn't made of flesh but of metal. Perhaps evolution below followed another path, one that doesn't need sunlight or warmth, one that builds itself from minerals and silence. Part XL view of the ghost currents. There are places in the sea where currents appear with no source, rivers within the ocean. They twist, turn, and vanish. No wind, no tide, no cause. Scientists can't explain them. But ancient sailors had a name, the ghost paths. They believed these currents carried souls, the lost, the forgotten, the drowned, ferrying them endlessly in circles, deep beneath awareness. Sometimes modern sonar detects them too. Whispering currents moving against gravity, looping endlessly. The ocean's eternal circulation, not of water, but of memory. Part XLVI, the pulson. June 29, 1997, NOAA's underwater microphones detected a sound that shook the deep. It lasted only 7 minutes. A low-frequency rumble so vast it could be heard across the Pacific. It was nicknamed the bloop. At first they thought it was a creature, something enormous, biological, but the pattern matched no known whale, machine, or geological event. Later, the official explanation was ice movement, but if it was ice, it moved with intention. Some claim the bloop wasn't a sound, it was a heartbeat, and that it hasn't stopped, only slowed. Part XILV. The dream of dry land humanity is obsessed with ascent. From ocean to mountain, from Earth to orbit. Every great leap of civilization begins with leaving the sea behind. But perhaps progress isn't meant to rise forever. Perhaps it's a loop, a tide. The deeper we go into space, the more we are drawn back to where we began. To water, to pressure, to silence. Because before there was life, there was ocean. And when life ends, it will return there, not in death, but in reunion. Part Exulfiate. The quiet agreement. Maybe we were never meant to explore the entire ocean. Maybe the 80% left unseen is not failure. It's restraint, a pact, an unspoken understanding between creator and creation, that some truths are too deep to survive the surface. That not all knowledge must be known, because knowing everything means losing wonder. And perhaps that's the final secret of the sea. It protects mystery as fiercely as it protects life. It hides not to deceive us, but to preserve the magic that makes us seek in the first place. Part X likes the blue infinity stand at the shore at midnight. Listen to the waves. You'll hear it, the rhythm of something ancient, patient, eternal. We've mapped the stars to escape feeling small, but it's the ocean that reminds us what we truly are. Tiny sparks in a living vastness, witnesses, not conquerors, guests, not owners. And maybe, just maybe, the reason we know more about Mars than the sea is because Mars is what we want to understand. The ocean is what we must never forget, because when we stop listening, the silence will rise to find us. The surface we never reached. The ocean has no interest in being understood. It allows us only what we can bear to know. For centuries, it has given us fish, pearls, and storms, just enough to remind us of its mood. But beneath that generosity lies restraint. It hides more than it reveals, not out of malice, but mercy. Because to see the true depths would change how we understand life itself. Part L, the weight of knowing. There's a moment, deep beneath the submersible lights, when the mind begins to surrender, when direction, sound, and even time dissolve. The deeper one descends, the more the world above becomes a dream. And maybe that's why exploration stopped. Because beneath a certain depth, it's not the pressure that crushes you, it's awareness. You begin to realize the sea doesn't just surround Earth, it is Earth. Everything we stand on, mountains, continents, soil, is just the exposed skin of a planet drowning in its own creation. We call it the ocean floor, but that's a lie. There is no floor, only layers of darkness, density, and memory. The submersible descends, meters ticking down, and the light fades to nothing. The windows reflect only the face of the one who looks, as if the sea is holding up a mirror. And in that reflection, the ocean asks, silently, "Why do you seek me when you've forgotten yourself?" And Part Li, the forgotten explorers, they were few, those who went deepest, men and women whose names most of the world has never heard. They didn't go for fame. They went because something in them couldn't rest. Jacques Piccard, Don Walsh, James Cameron, people who risked their lives to glimpse a world that refused to be seen. When Piccard reached the Challenger Deep in 1960, he looked through his small window and saw a flatfish. 10,000 meters below light, where pressure could crush steel, life still existed. Soft, moving, unaware that it was impossible. He wrote later, "The bottom was as calm as a graveyard, yet alive." And that phrase, an alive graveyard, became the perfect metaphor for the ocean itself. A place where endings and beginnings share the same breath. Part Lihi. The unspoken threshold scientists speak of Hadal zones, the deepest regions of the ocean, named after Hades, the underworld. But even these regions are just the visible tips of a black iceberg. There are caverns and ridges beneath those depths, hidden valleys where light has never existed. Some submersible footage from the 2000s captured shapes moving against the current, larger than anything recorded. Their motion didn't match animals, it matched patterns, rhythmic, measured. One researcher described it as watching the ocean breathe. When the footage leaked, it was quickly dismissed as artifacts of light. But to those who saw it firsthand, the impression never left. Something down there wasn't just alive. It was aware, partly free. The memory beneath the waves. There's an old sailor's superstition that the sea remembers names. When a ship is lost, its name is whispered into the current, carried to the depths and stored forever. Scientists laugh at such tales, but data from deep-sea microphones says otherwise. When the wreck of the Titanic was finally mapped, hydrophones detected low-frequency hums surrounding the site, patterns repeating every 12 minutes. Not mechanical, not biological, just rhythmic, as though the ocean were replaying an echo of what happened there. Every tragedy, every storm, every cry beneath the waves, recorded not on paper, but in the medium of memory itself. The sea is not a void. It's a living archive, part live, the silence above. Meanwhile, humanity keeps sending signals into space. We broadcast our presence, our coordinates, our curiosity, hoping someone will answer. But maybe the message we should be sending is downward, because while we shout into the sky, the real listener might be below, not above. A consciousness that has existed since before the first raindrop, before the first cell divided. Something that knows us better than we know ourselves. Perhaps that's what NASA realized, that the more we listened to the sea, the more we heard ourselves echo back. And that truth was harder to face than silence. Part LV. The ocean as mind. Imagine for a moment that Earth is a single living organism. If the land is its body, then the ocean is its mind, a pulsing, flowing neural network of salt, motion and memory. The tides its thoughts, the currents its dreams. And we, humans, are the neurons that forgot where we came from. Every wave is a signal. Every storm, a surge of emotion. When the ocean rages, perhaps it's not random weather, but expression, a world feeling itself. And if that's true, then every dive, every sonar ping, every ripple of exploration is a conversation with the planet's own consciousness. We've been speaking to Earth this entire time. We just never realized it could reply. Part LVI, the drift of empires, civilizations rise, fall and disappear. But water remembers all. When you touch the sea, you touch every age. Every drop has been everything. River, glacier, tear, storm, blood. The same molecules that fell as rain on dinosaurs now wash against your hand. We think of time as linear, but the ocean laughs at that. For it moves in cycles, an eternal, infinite, self-renewing. And that's why we cannot own it. We can only return to it. Empires crumble into sand. Sand drifts into the tide, and the tide carries it home. Part LVI. The 80%, it's a statistic repeated so often that it's lost its meaning. 80% of our ocean remains unexplored, but it's not just unmapped terrain. It's unmeasured mystery. We chase stars not because they're far, but because they're easy to see. The sea, in contrast, asks us to close our eyes and feel, to trust darkness, to surrender control. That's why we turned away. Not because we couldn't go deeper, but because we weren't ready to meet what waited there. And maybe we still aren't. Part Elfita, the blue between worlds. As the narrator rises toward the surface, the darkness begins to dissolve into light. The sound of bubbles becomes distant thunder. The sub creaks, pressure eases, and above, the shimmer of dawn filters through the water like silk. In that ascent, everything feels both ancient and new. For the first time, you sense it. Not fear, not curiosity, but belonging. The ocean doesn't hold grudges, it holds space. It doesn't demand worship, only remembrance. And as you break the surface, the line between sea and sky blurs, an infinite mirror of two worlds that were never separate. You realize in silence, we've never truly left the ocean. We've just forgotten how to listen to its heartbeat. The ocean that dreams of us. The air feels foreign, the sky too bright. For a moment, you wonder if you've really returned, or if this calm silver horizon is only another layer of the ocean's imagination. You breathe, and it feels like the sea is breathing through you. Each inhale, the tide. Each exhale, and the retreat. The sub drifts quietly, a speck upon infinity, and you realize above or below it makes no difference. The surface was never separation, only illusion. Part Lelaix, the circle of light. The sun climbs slowly, spilling gold across the water. Waves catch fire for an instant, then cool back to blue. Every glimmer feels like the heartbeat of something vast. The ocean's pulse meeting the dawn's warmth. You remember something a scientist once said: if we drained the seas, Earth would look more alien than any planet we've discovered. Craters, canyons, and ridges as strange as anything on Mars. Oceans hide not simplicity, but complexity beyond comprehension. And as the light dances, you feel as though the planet itself is waking. Not from sleep, but from memory. Part LX, the deep breath. Close your eyes. Listen. What you hear isn't just wind. It's the breath of a world that has never stopped exhaling. When you first descended, the silence felt eternal, till you realize it was never silence at all. It was the hum of creation, stretched so vast your ears couldn't contain it. You imagine every atom in the water vibrating in ancient harmony, a chorus older than the sun. And suddenly the fear you once felt dissolves into awe. The unknown is not hostile, it's patient. The ocean doesn't hide because it's dangerous. It hides because it knows we aren't ready. Part Lexi, the first dream before mountains, before trees, before air. there was only the sea. A dark soup of chemicals and starlight. In that cradle, life sparked. A single shimmering cell that didn't yet understand existence. That moment, that first pulse, was the ocean's dream. And everything that followed, whales, forests, humans, are ripples of that dream continuing to unfold. We evolved from salt water, and still, it flows through us. Every heartbeat a miniature tide, every tear a reminder of where we began. To study the ocean is to study the first memory of life itself. Part Ligsh, the listener. Below beneath you, miles below the sub's silent hull, lies the unmapped world. A terrain no light has ever touched. Mountains of black basalt, valleys filled with liquid fire, creatures with no eyes, glowing organs that whisper in pulses, languages written in light, and somewhere in that endless dark, a listener. Not a god, not a monster, just awareness. A consciousness the size of the planet folded into current and current, molecule by molecule. When you first dove, you thought you were observing it. But now you understand it was observing you. The deeper you went, the closer you came, not to discovery, but recognition. It's not watching with eyes. It's listening with patience, waiting for you, for humanity, to remember what you once were. Partly thrace, the refusal of fear. There's a certain peace in surrender. Not defeat, surrender. When you stop trying to measure everything, the world begins to reveal itself freely. Fear is a lens that distorts. Curiosity, a light that clarifies. We've looked at the sea as something to conquer, to map, to exploit. But what if we approached it the way we approach a sacred place? Not to claim, but to commune. The deepest knowledge doesn't come from digging, drilling, or descending. It comes from listening. And the ocean, patient as eternity, has been whispering all along, you cannot explore me without exploring yourself. Part El Chui 4, the two infinities, space and sea. Above and below, the two mirrors of infinity. One stretches outward, the other inward. Both demand humility. When astronauts describe the view of Earth from orbit, they speak of the overview effect, a sudden realization of oneness, of fragility. But divers who've touched the ocean's blackest trenches describe something similar, the inner view effect. In space, you face the universe. In the sea, you face your reflection of it. Both infinities meet inside the human soul, and perhaps that's why we chase both. Not to escape Earth, but to understand it from every side. Part LXV, the unmapped mind. Imagine a map of the human brain. Neural folds, electrical pathways, vast connections, hidden regions. Now compare that to a map of the ocean floor. Ridges, trenches, currents, unknown territories. They look almost identical. It's as if the ocean is the brain of Earth, and our own minds are small reflections of its structure. We explore the sea to explore the unconscious. We explore space to explore imagination. But we always begin in water. Every embryo floats in its own miniature ocean. Every birth is a resurfacing. The ocean is not out there. It is within us, the same salt, the same rhythm, the same longing for return. Part El Jebum Fai, the return. The narrator looks toward the horizon. The sea stretches endlessly, but no longer feels like distance. It feels like belonging. You whisper softly, not to be heard, but to be understood. We've never truly left you, and in response, a gentle wave laps against the sub, as if acknowledging the truth. No words, no thunder, just silence that feels like forgiveness. In that moment, everything makes sense. Why we seek the stars, why we fear the deep, why we know Mars but not our own blue. Because the ocean isn't a mystery to be solved, it's a memory to be honored. Part El Seringti. The eternal pulse, the engines hum quietly as you drift. The sea and sky mirror each other, one dark, one light, both infinite. For centuries, humans have written myths of gods who sleep beneath the waves. But perhaps the truth is simpler. It's not gods that sleep below, it's our origin. We've built cities of light and machines of steel, yet deep down, we remain what we always were, children of water. Every molecule in your body once swam freely. Every cell remembers the ocean's rhythm. The tide doesn't just move the shore, it moves us. And the reason we feel calm near water is not magic. It's recognition. We are home. Part LX8. The message. If the ocean could speak, perhaps it would say, "You've searched the stars for company, but you've forgotten that you are never alone." Every wave carries the echo of your first breath. Every drop holds the reflection of your face. I am not your mystery. I am your memory. And in that realization, exploration becomes reverence. Science becomes poetry. The sea becomes the soul of the universe made visible. Partly Nikes, the stillness. The sub drifts silently. The ocean around it shimmers with tiny bioluminescent sparks, plankton swirling like galaxies, as if stars themselves have sunk to rest in the deep. For the first time, you don't want to leave. You just want to float, to listen, to exist, because this is what it means to understand. Not conquering, not mapping. Just presence. The voice of the ocean fades into a heartbeat rhythm, slow, deep, endless. It could be your heart. It could be Earth's. Perhaps there's no difference. Part LXX. The last reflection. We spend lifetimes reaching upward, yet everything we seek has always been below. Peace, origin, meaning. 80% of our ocean remains unexplored, and maybe it always will. Because exploration is not about completion, it's about connection. And if we ever truly understood the sea, if we ever mapped its every shadow, we might lose the very mystery that gives it life. The ocean doesn't need to be known. It needs to be remembered. Epilogue. The quiet light, the sun sets. The horizon glows faint pink, melting into blue-black waves. For a brief moment, the entire world feels suspended. Neither day nor night, neither above nor below. And in that stillness, the ocean whispers, not in words, but in warmth. Welcome home. You close your eyes. The world slows. And as you drift between waking and sleep, you realize something simple, something final. The universe isn't divided between stars and seas. It's one vast, breathing whole. And we, small, curious, fragile, are the sound of that breath continuing forever.